time is 11:32 a.m. Good morning. The news headline: Thoughts on Biafra, Ogbuagu and Ikwe. The news in full. The past 1 week has been an eye-opener for many. They couldn't help but notice an uncanny similarity between what President Muhammadu Buhari and the IPOB leadership did within the past 7 days. It, however, began on June 10 when the president, in a widely viewed television interview, dismissed the Igbo as an inconsequential ethnic group, describing them as a mere dot in a cycle with no access to the sea that would warrant a serious quest for independence. And on September 9, exactly 3 months later, he more or less recounted the statement in Owerri, the Imo State capital, addressing a group of Southeast leaders that Governor Hope Uzodinma sprang on him. The president suddenly sounded conciliatory. The summary of what he said was that Igbo are precious to Nigeria and it would be tragic if they should leave. 3 days later, it was IPOB's turn. A spokesperson issued another martial command for residents of the Southeast region to stay indoors on September 14th in commemoration of their lost ones. However, on the evening of September 14, he decreed for rest. He realized a frantic message, doubling down on previous bluster and washing his hands off the foul air his henchmen released as they attempted to enforce his decree. The summary of what he said in the second statement was that residents of the Southeast are so precious that anyone attempting to intimidate them with sit-at-home orders will be served a portion reserved for saboteurs and traitors. What tampered the tough talk of the powerful and mighty? We may never know. What we do know is that this is a powerful lesson on the dangers of impetuosity when dealing with peoples and groups. When not moderated, impetuosity leads to a harvest of tears and blood, and when the wounds are left to fester, the will to fight solidifies, many more will die, and it may even take centuries to resolve, if ever. From our last week's excursion into the story of nationalist agitations, the Catalans of Spain have been at it for almost 100 years now. Generations rise to pick it up and continue the fight. The Irish have been at it for much longer. The Irish have been at it for 104 years and still counting. In Africa, the Sahrawi people began their own agitation for a separation from Morocco in 1971, a year after Biafra 1.0 ended. Unlike Biafra, the United Nations has sanctioned the right to self-determination for people of Western Sahara. Still, they are a long way from attaining an independent Sahrawi republic, 50 years and thousands of deaths later. Separatist agitation is not a tea party or a walk in the park. Every president must live with a body count of thousands of citizens that must die, fighting against or defending the separatist desire. Separatist leaders must live to account for thousands or millions, as in the case of Biafra, that will die after joining them to defend their rights to self-determination. The least their leaders of opposing sides could do is to exercise caution in their speeches and actions, knowing that words have power to heal and to kill. In conflict situations, the power to kill is preponderant, especially when impetuosity rules the leader. Again, and for the IPOB, they must recognize that the difference between Biafra 1.0 and what they are fighting for today is as clear as crystal. Biafra 1.0 was a fight for survival of a people intentionally targeted for elimination. Military and civilian mobs fell on people from the eastern region and sought to wipe them off the face of the earth to revenge what they considered as an unjust murder of their political leaders. There was no form of bestiality that was not tried, including ripping babies from their mother's womb and squashing them before dispatching their mothers to hell. This is a far cry from what Fulani herders are doing in local communities as they contest land and water rights with farmers all over the country. As far as we know, no religious group has declared fatwa on any ethnic group in Nigeria, apart from the menace of herdsmen, which many states are managing quite well. The biggest amongst of IPOB separatists is the disproportionate share of Nigerian resources by those of the hem, and if this is the case, then we are faced with a political challenge that we are thinking of solving through the military battlefield. History, however, teaches us a group political advantage is never permanent in a democracy. History also tells us what the Igbo have the capacity to wipe out economic disadvantages. There is, therefore, no reason to suppose that the current troubles of the Igbo, which are also the trouble that other disadvantaged ethnic groups face at this moment, will last forever. Everyone knows that the solution to giving the Igbo their rightful place in Nigeria is a question of unity among the various interests and forces struggling for economic and political freedom. Nigerian independence struggle succeeded because the nationalists recognized the need to carry along every segment of its emerging society. Southern politicians bent over backwards to accommodate and allay fears of their northern compatriots that they could meet with undue disadvantages. How many battles can IPOB fight at the same time? Can it risk the revolt of its sympathizers with this mindless enforcement of sit-ins any day that the whim catches them? From where I sit to observe, it is obvious that the zeal for independence has blinded a few to the reality that separatist agitation is not a 100-meter dash but a long-distance race. The IPOB leadership should consider making haste slowly. They should know that without a game plan, without an extensive inclusive mobilization effort, without strategic engagement with the Igbo political, cultural, business and intellectual class, and without war chests nor weapons to prosecute a long drawn-out war, they are merely setting up captive Igbo youths to be used for target practice by security operatives. No amount of radio propaganda nor big, bad talk could ever win the prize. Again, history is our guide. Radio propaganda didn't work during the Civil War when regional professionals and veterans straddled the airwaves and trained professional soldiers manned the field engagement. Biafran soldiers were outnumbered and outgunned. Propaganda and big talk will not work when a group that does not have an arsenal and with no external sovereign support launches into violent separatist agitation. A better and strategic battle is one that focuses on current members of the political class because most have refused to drink from the wisdom of their forebears. And this is the view of a writer about the IPOB and President Muhammadu Buhari's clash about agitation to have their own country where the presidency is actually against it, and is actually advising that IPOB have shown capacity to neutralize the youth muzzle and force corrupt election officials to walk the straight and narrow. Therefore, the writer is advising that the IPOB needs to further strengthen their militant forces and their strategies in achieving this aim, because when you're talking about separatists and when you're talking about self-determination, it is not a day journey, and like it cited Spain and Irish, that it takes them about 100 years to 104 years. So then the IPOB needs to change their manners of fighting for this self-determination. The time is 11:43 a.m. Good morning.